What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward as we have big earnings coming out, not to mention some new developments on the charts. But just note that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And don't forget to smash the like button. Anyways, for the markets, I just want to mention that we saw a very, very interesting day. We saw the market dip to some key support before getting a nice bounce, but other stocks like NIO showed some weakness. We failed to hold the support that I was talking about where this yellow trend line was. Instead, we got a dip right over here to retest it as resistance. And this is a sign of weaknesses developing on NIO stock. So the question is, will we see a big bounce or a dip? That depends a lot on the big earnings coming out. So I will talk about that first before I break down the technicals. So just note that for tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. There's not much data. We have some mortgage data coming out well before the market opens, but it's all very minor. Don't forget that, however, around the end of the day, we actually have some Fed speakers like Bostic giving speeches, and we have a couple of bill auctions, but everything is very, very minor, and there's not really anything too significant coming out in terms of data. However, just know that the market is still neutral. We're still stuck between supply and demand. Momentum is still greedy despite that, and the put and call option positioning is getting ready for a big move. Whether we see this thing dip or if this starts going up again, I'll be watching to see if this ends up shifting. So I'll be watching that very carefully. Now, tomorrow is going to be a big day, and the reason for that is because tomorrow is Wednesday. After the market closes, we have Nvidia's earnings. Nvidia is a excuse me, it's a massive, massive $1 trillion company and has the potential to shake the markets like crazy. Now, one thing worth mentioning about Nvidia is that it has its hold on so many different sectors out there, from semiconductors, not to mention tech, not to mention stocks like Tesla. They're all going to be impacted by this. And it's going to cause a big ripple effect in the markets, affecting SPY and the QQQ. Also, just know that these institutions will use Nvidia's earnings as another excuse to move the market like crazy based off what's more advantageous for them. Right. So it's not just Nvidia's earnings. Yes, Nvidia is going to cause a big move, but they're going to use this as an excuse to move the market like crazy. It's their way of manipulation. So Nvidia has become the world's most important stock. I do agree with that. I think that there's so many eyes and so much that's going to be added to this that it's going to cause some high volatility. We are expecting some nice growth in the triple digits, but to less of what we saw last time, according to reports. And we're going to be looking for, once again, 75% growth to about $31.7 billion in revenue. That's what we're going to be looking at least as time goes on. So I'll be watching to see how things end up going for now. We'll be looking to see what guidance looks like as well for them. And whatever NVIDIA causes is going to lead to a very, very big move. So get ready for that. Now, as far as NIO goes, I was looking through the news. I didn't see much news come out for NIO. I did see some talk about the EC6 again on their Twitter page. And then besides that, volume is only at about 24 million. And we're just getting the same analyst ratings as before. So there's not really anything changing. So what do I see for this? This also depends on NVIDIA's earnings. If Nvidia crushes it with earnings and the whole market sees a huge squeeze, this could actually help NIO try to push back this resistance, taking us back up towards this 4.14 area, if not higher. If Nvidia gets a big rug pull, we could be looking for a move back down to 3.86 tomorrow after the market closes. Otherwise, from a technical standpoint, NIO does actually look a little bit weaker because we were riding this yellow trend line as our support. We got this bearish candlestick below it, only to get bought back up, and now we're kind of rejecting. So this could be favoring a move back down towards that 3.8 area. So technically speaking, it looks a little bit weaker and does favor a bit of a move to the downside. We might just continue to consolidate. So I think we might see this $4 area and possibly see a dip in the morning tomorrow. But whether or not this dip continues depends on Nvidia's earnings. That's going to be the major catalyst driving things either up or down. Now, SPY, on the other hand, is very, very indecisive. It doesn't know which way it's going to go yet. And we're just completely range bound. I think we're going to likely see this remain range bound for the time being. Every time we go up to about 562 to 563, this thing is kind of rejecting. If we break the all-time high, that's when this thing is going to be flying towards, high levels like 566, 568, 570. If we end up rejecting, you're going to be looking at 558 as one of our supports, not to mention 556. This entire range right over here. If we lose the 556 range, then we're going to turn bearish. So we haven't lost 556 to turn bearish. We haven't broken past 564 to turn bullish. We're kind of stuck in the middle, and we're just completely range bound. So from what I'm seeing, we're just very tight right now. And I think that looking at the way we moved, we're going to likely see a little bit of a dip tomorrow morning back down to the 559 area, maybe a little bit lower, then back up and just continue to consolidate. That's the most likely possibility for tomorrow morning. But in my opinion, Nvidia's earnings will cause a massive move, and that's going to be the next thing the market's watching for. So look for a little dip tomorrow, then some consolidation, and watch and see if Nvidia causes the massive move. The price action tomorrow does not matter as much until we get Nvidia's earnings. Then we're going to be watching to see if we get this big rug pull or not. That's going to be huge for the markets. For Nvidia, we're range bound between this support around 123 and resistance at 130. I think we're going to be breaking one of these levels tomorrow, depending on how earnings goes. For tomorrow, I think we might dip back down to 126 and then just consolidate. And then we'll be watching to see if we break past 130 to turn bullish or if we lose 123 to turn bearish. I presume we're just going to be stuck in the middle, going back and forth and back and forth. And then we're going to be looking for a massive move once we get earnings. Will we be pumping to about the mid 130s? Will we get a big rug pull? We'll just have to wait and see. For Bitcoin, we saw this big dump so far. We ended up losing support at 62,500. Now we're dipping back down towards the 58,000 area. Look at resistance at 60,000 and support at 58,000. We're stuck in the middle, but this is looking a little bit more bearish. This might dip a little bit. Could liquidity be driven away from Bitcoin to enter stocks, or are we about to see the opposite? We'll just have to wait and see. As far as Tesla goes, we're actually on a bit of a downtrend right now. We look a little bit more bearish. One thing worth mentioning about Tesla is that we're we're barely holding support around 208. So I'll be watching to see if this holds. Notice that we're making lower highs right here on the chart and we're continuing to fall. Could this be developing a falling wedge? I'm not going to count on that yet. Just know that technicals look a little bit weaker. If we lose this 208 area, we could be looking for a dip all the way down to this imbalance towards 202. And we got to reclaim at least 212 to turn back up. Otherwise, the trend is more bearish and this chart looks a little bit weaker. And this does favor a slight move to the downside. So it might dip a little bit more, at least for the time being. So tomorrow, we look kind of weak going into tomorrow for Tesla. But whether or not this continues depends on Nvidia's earnings. Obviously, Nvidia is a big partner with Tesla, providing them with necessary chips. So I think that there's going to be a big move after Nvidia's earnings, but approaching it, we do look a little bit more bearish. For the QQQ, is the same thing. We look a little bit weaker. We did push a bit, get a nice bounce off 472, but notice that we do have a tendency of rejecting near 480. We also have this tough resistance around 477. We failed to break through that at our 20 EMA. So this makes me suspect that we might be dipping lower towards the 474 area, then eventually 472. As we have resistance at 476, I think we're just going to range trade on the QQQ, dip a little bit tomorrow morning, then get a nice rebound and continue to consolidate. Then we're going to be looking for a big move depending on Nvidia's earnings. Will it cause a big push all the way up into the 480s, or will we get a big rug pull taking us down to this imbalance? Technicals do look a little bit weaker from that end, but you never know, guys. With Nvidia, you want to be very open-minded nonetheless. For Aapl is trading sideways right now. Looks a little bit more bullish as we got a nice day. As long as you hold above 228s tomorrow, we'll be looking for a push for that 230 imbalance all the way up here. And if we end up losing 226, we'll be looking for a dip. We're kind of stuck in the middle, so we'll just have to give this some time just to see how things go. That being said, for a few more, we have the IWM Russell 2000. We're dipping towards our 20 EMA at 217. If we bounce off this, we'll be looking for a push into the 220s. If we lose this, we'll be dipping back down to 214. We're kind of stuck right now. So we'll see what the reaction happens to be, but be very, very open-minded nonetheless with the IWM. The 4-hour is showing some life. So we'll see if we hold this support or not. We do look a little bit weaker compared to the market, but we have to hold this 217 area. If we hold this, we could rebound. If not, we may dip. I think we may be testing 217 tomorrow for a little bit of a dip, and we'll see if it bounces. Now, even if we do come back down a little bit, it does not matter because Nvidia's earnings will determine if we see the full measure move all the way back up into the 220s, or if we get a rug pull. Depends on Nvidia. So keep that in your mind. For Coinbase, we're showing some weakness. We lost 197. We're continuing to fall. We're barely holding the support right over here around this 192 area. And we have this resistance around 197. So I think that this is at risk of dipping lower as we look a little bit more bearish. And we could be looking for a move back down towards 190. So in my opinion, coin is looking more bearish. To turn bullish, you want to break back above our resistance at 198, but this is continuing to fall. So just notes that there is going to be a risk of more downside. We have this gap to fill down here. I'll be watching that in case we do end up losing 188. Then I'd be looking for that gap fill down to 178. So the share price looks bearish for coin, especially as crypto is dipping. But whether or not this bounces depends on Nvidia. Amazon looks a little bit weaker. We're barely holding 172. This is our support where this imbalance happens to be. So I'll be watching to see if this holds. If we lose this, we're going down to 168. If we hold this, we do try to rebound. We're stuck in the middle. Depends on Nvidia's earnings. Meta's looking more bearish. We could be dipping down to 515 again. Still looks like it could dip, but this depends on Nvidia's earnings. If If Nvidia has poor earnings, we could be dipping to 508s, and if we do well, we could be looking for a bounce. The whole market is going to be impacted by this. Microsoft is still showing a little bit of weakness. It's starting to consolidate between 410 and 414. Might continue to do so until we see a break depending on Nvidia's earnings. And then Google looks a little bit more bearish, might be looking for 165, and then we'll see how Nvidia affects this, but still looks kind of weak. So we'll see how the market does, guys. I'm seeing some weakness developing on these charts. Some charts are showing some strength to just SPY as we try to rebound, but we're just range bound on SPY. Other stocks are showing some signs of being range bound as well, like the QQQ. Others are showing some weakness. So we will see what happens with Nvidia's earnings. This will be the big catalyst. So get ready for that. Tomorrow, look for a little bit of a dip in the broader markets, and we'll see how we end up moving. For NIO, there might also be a little dip tomorrow. So be prepared for that. If we don't hold forward, we're looking for the 3.8s, and then we'll see if we get a bounce or not. That will depend on Nvidia's earnings. So thank you for listening, guys. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon. The next one in just 1 day from now. By the time I report my next update, Nvidia's earnings should be out tomorrow. So get ready. Nvidia's earnings comes out after the market closes. So do what you have to do, guys. Be prepared. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.